The following program is brought to you in part by Northern States Power Company.
You guys have an opinion about where that ought to be, where I ought to stand?
Summer 1986, one of the most familiar scenes in politics. A candidate for governor stumping small-town Minnesota holds forth to reporters. You may have seen it on the news. Here are some scenes you did not see.
I want building blocks here, and I don't want rhetoric from you. I'll take care of the rhetoric.
Means me going over to Anoka and you going over to Minnetonka and just walking back and forth and meeting at the border and going back and doing it again.
I want you on television.
You didn't see me on television.
I know, because I bet you didn't do the press conference that way. That's what I'm saying.
I did too. You weren't there. How would you know what is true? You weren't there. How would you know what we said?
Tonight on the Moore Report, you will see and hear what goes on behind the scenes in a political campaign. We were there from the beginning to the end.
Understand that we're getting clobbered and you're supposed to be miserable, you beautiful people?
1 year ago, I had two convictions. One conviction was that Rudy Perpich did not have the energy and the commitment and the focus to spend 4 years being a good governor. I came to that decision. Secondly, I had the real conviction that based on my years of work, what I believed in, my feelings about the state of Minnesota, that I was ready. That's why I ran.
What we're about does not end today and does not end tomorrow. What we're about, really, is pulling together as a community to make things work better. It just means being tough-minded and good-hearted. It means not stopping. I don't intend to stop. I hope you don't either, do you? All right. So I say to you, thank you all from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you all. Don't give up. Keep working. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That was September 9th, primary night, the end of George Latimer's campaign to unseat Governor Perpich. The St. Paul mayor lost badly, 42 to 56%. But last winter, when Latimer decided to challenge Governor Perpich, the outlook for both men was quite different. Governor Perpich was in political trouble, and the polls show that while the voters liked Rudy Perpich, they thought he was ineffective. His job performance rating was at its lowest. In a head-to-head contest with the mayor, the polls indicated the best Governor Perpich could do was a tie. In contrast, the mayor had just been re-elected to his sixth term with 84% of the vote. He had a long list of accomplishments to point to in St. Paul. By early spring, Latimer was ready to declare his candidacy. And that's where we begin our story.
I got to tell you this one, though. Yesterday we got to the advertising agency, okay? We get out to the advertising agency, and Latimer's just gone through this poll saying, this is incredible, everybody in the state knows me.
90% of the people know me.
We walk into an agency that's going to get $1 million account from us, walk up to the front desk, and I say, where's the meeting? And she looked at me and said, Mr. Latimer?
It's a Saturday morning late in March. Latimer and his advisors are gathered in his living room to decide when he should formally announce that he will be a candidate for governor.
So the question is timing now. My proposition is every day you wait, you're losing something.
Dick Broker, the campaign manager, is arguing that they announce soon, on Monday. But others in the group are counseling that the mayor wait for a better opportunity.
My feeling is you announce to capture the news, to make your statement about what you want to do.
The issue isn't whether the legislature's over or whether it isn't. Forget that. The issue is if you're going to announce, you ought to pick a day when you know that you've got the greatest chance of being the major story.
I'm leaning toward the announcement because I feel your frustration building into rage. And since I do...
Well, that's fine.
And I know I shouldn't, but since I depend so much on you, it becomes almost.
All those that are against the announcement get angry.
But honestly, it almost is becoming. It
is a big deal with me. I think it is with Mary, and I think it is with Merle.
Dick,
Well, I can't dismiss.
It's a divorce. How about Nancy? Right?
If the deal is that
Does
big,
that mean he should or shouldn't?
You really feel powerfully then.
what I hear you really saying is that
really, do you really feel powerfully?
I feel strongly, but I won't divorce you.
No, I know. No, but I mean, do you think? In other words, strongly. In other words, the Mark Vaught, Ronnie Brooks, Tom Barrett kinds of comments.
Yeah, no,
about Penn.
I'm swayed greatly by a lot of those comments. I think there's a lot of validity to them. But and it's just a very straightforward kind of thing. You have decided, you've been looking around for 3 months. People have expectations that you ought to either decide or...
People are there, and so maybe I don't get as much coverage.
ever before is
Yeah.
running in office.
You looked at me and said, I want you to know you're here for the right reason tonight. We're going to be out on the trail. We're going to go. I'm going to go. I'm committed. I'm a Democrat. Get into those county conventions. All right! Leave to the left! Leave to the right! Sit down, stand up! All right, then we quiet you down and get you off the stage.
You know what, guys? We're going to do it.
2 days later, the campaign notified the press that the mayor would make his official announcement early that evening at a dance hall in St. Paul.
There's your picketers.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
The announcement was being staged as part of a larger campaign meeting. More than 800 people had been invited, and it was to be the beginning of an effort to organize a statewide network of volunteers to support Latimer's candidacy.
Come on, George, loosen up. Have a little fun. Holy cow. Gee whiz. Come on. Let's get moving here. I'm nervous.
Only about 200 people actually showed up for the meeting. And what was to have been a working session for the campaign became more of a party to celebrate the candidate's announcement.
It will be for all of those great and good things that make Minnesota what it is. And that's why I'm here as a Democrat. And with your help, I intend to be governor of the state of Minnesota. Thank you a lot. Thank you. You're beautiful people. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
The following day, the candidate made an exhaustive campaign swing around the state. Both he and his advisors recognized that in order to win the governor's office, he had to cultivate support beyond the boundaries of his metropolitan base in the Twin Cities. The mayor planned to stop in each of the major media markets so he could meet with members of the local press.
I've been all over rural Minnesota, particularly in the last 4 or 5 months, and what I'm learning, the farmers themselves have been telling me, that rural Minnesota is more than just the farm. It is also Main Street Minnesota. We've lost industrial and light industrial jobs from rural Minnesota that have damaged rural Minnesota's economy almost as much as a loss of farm families. There it is, beautiful place, as far as the eye can see. Things that tie us together are much more powerful than the things that divide us. And if there's one thing that needs correcting right now, it is the partisanship, the confrontation, the fractionalism, the regionalism that is dominating state politics and government today.
This is a problem. George Latimer's too tied to the Twin Cities and doesn't understand the problems of the state. 37-44.
That's why having a rural lieutenant governor is important.
Do you feel you have enough rural support, or are you looking as far as a running mate, someone from the rural areas?
I think it's very important that I and my running mate respond to the needs of rural Minnesota. I think that's probably the first order of business for the next several years. And I'm dedicated to doing that. And if a running mate enhances my ability to do it, then I'll be choosing a running mate accordingly.
What a great day. By the end of their first full day on the campaign trail, Latimer and his aides were inspired by what had happened. They had been in 8 cities, and they were covered by all the major news outlets in Minnesota.
What a day. Incredible.
It soon became apparent what the governor's counterattacks would be when the Perpich campaign opened its Iron Range headquarters.
And symbolic of what's going to happen to the Latimer campaign.
We're going to go out and we're going to knock every house in northern Minnesota, and every place they'll get the word what George Latimer is and what he's made of.
They have some of the highest homeowner and business property taxes in Minnesota, in the city of St. Paul, because of failed economic development policies of Mayor Latimer.
Even though the governor's surrogates were later told to tone down their attacks, part of the Perpich strategy was clear: to focus attention on Mayor Latimer as a big city liberal who spends too much, taxes too much, and whose redevelopment of St. Paul is beginning to come undone.
Should we just go to the conference room?
Hi. Some of the early excitement of the campaign has faded, but their pollster is bringing them good news.
How you doing, Lauer?
Among likely voters in the DFL primary, Latimer and Perpich are in a dead heat. The pollster and members of the campaign have come to the advertising agency to discuss the poll and its implications. But before they begin, the mayor wants to tell them what's been happening on the campaign trail and how it may affect their understanding of the poll.
These numbers do not reflect what's happened since they've been slugging me. And I continue to pretend that they're not drawing any blood. In my opinion, they are, because there's hardly anywhere I go that people don't ask me, and they're not pounding me with it, but usually one guy will say, a reporter will say, what about that audit? Is that going to embarrass you? Or somebody else will say, I had a senior citizen in the high-rise in Duluth the last time I was there say to me, what about this tax on food that they tell me you're in favor of? So therefore, they're getting to folks, and particularly the folks that don't know me.
Sooner or later, you have to consider, you just can't sit back and let them keep shooting at you all the time. You know, it's the same old thing, is that if the incumbent, if nobody says anything bad about the incumbent, sooner or later people say, well, what the hell are we going to go through all this agony for of getting rid of them unless we've got real reasons to do it?
Because I think we are a polite people. We need a reason to turn somebody out of office. It's not a very nice thing to do.
I don't like me when I'm strident. I don't like me at all.
But I'm suggesting it's not you. I'm suggesting it's not you.
It doesn't have to be strident either.
The guy hasn't delivered. Now, how do you say to the public that, look, guys, let's face it, the guy hasn't delivered without being negative about it?
Yeah, I just want to again reiterate that 80% of the people in the poll, or 4 out of 5, see Perpich as honest and straightforward. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that it's very easy to fall over that line and be attacking this guy's integrity, and it's not the thing you want to do.
I would like to invite Susan to make a comment before we get into strategy, because of the work that she did in evaluating the last several primaries.
I think that basically the election will be won in the Twin Cities, provided that George does at least as well as Warren Spanis and Don Fraser did in the rest of the state. So it doesn't matter, you can say we only have one half the campaign to pay attention to.
We suggest that that you do a very high visibility campaign to shore up the recognition in the South and Northwest right now. You either do it with public relations and some gimmick, or you run some media.
Great.
We just can't have George Latimer out there in those parts of the state with only 35% of the people knowing him, because the campaign's going to get nasty pretty soon, and Rudy Perpich is going to start defying Latimer. And on top of it, one other part of that is that farmers in particular, and some of the, and in those outstate areas, they agreed with the statement that Latimer is too tied into the Twin Cities area.
Sure.
Doesn't understand.
There's no doubt, you're absolutely confirmed by my gut. Everywhere I go, even when they're polite, how is the mayor of St. Paul going to relate to rural Minnesota? That's the issue. It's an exciting issue, and I really want to take it on. And we don't have to be cute about that issue. We had to really...
Here's what I saw is the big double bind in the poll. That's very true. That's the one thing that's dragging you back, that 50% of the farmers say you can't relate to rural problems. On the other hand, the one big thing you have going for you is all this effective stuff you've done as a mayor.
Yeah.
That's your one big strength that plays over and over again, but on the other hand, it's derived out of a situation that tells them you don't know what you're doing in rural Minnesota. That's going to be a tough one.
So we ought to be working towards self-sufficiency. Other states have done it. We have the qualities and the leadership to do it too, but we haven't. And so when I'm through with this campaign, you're not going to find scars. You're going to find that we're going to be uplifted, because we're going to go back to the common ground that brought us together between rural Minnesota and metropolitan Minnesota. And that's what I'm aiming to do.
The mayor was out stumping hard in the southern and western areas of the state through most of April. But an important decision for the campaign still had to be addressed. who would be their candidate for lieutenant governor. On a Sunday morning, late in the month, Latimer and his advisors began to consider several possible running mates.
Patricia Spence, who's the mayor of Little Falls, Gene Olson, who was the president of the State School Boards Association from Duluth. I'm real high on Jerry Schoenfeld. I've had some people say not super positive things about him, and a lot of people say real positive things about him.
And they love him in Waseca.
You know, there's a lot of talk of ticket balancing, and there's a lot of talk of all that stuff, and honestly, I don't think anybody voted, very few people voted for Warren Spanis because Carl Johnson was on the ticket, and I honestly believe, despite what some people in the women's movement think, that very few people voted for Rudy Perpich because Marlene Johnson was on the ticket. And I think that the primary criterion of somebody is exactly as Roger laid them out, and that is someone who is articulate, who has an ability to project the campaign and to serve as an effective surrogate, because that really is their role. I guess the only precondition I'd attach is it ought not to be someone from the metro area. I feel pretty strongly about that because of the karma.
How about if we talk about the person and see what person?
You know, Arvon Frazier grew up in southwestern Minnesota. Can you imagine who with a pitchfork?
Frightening prospect. Truly a frightening prospect.
George, you are doing just what we agreed not to do. You're sliding right into it. Well, now we're not going to balance from there. We're going to balance from over here.
What Roger said, I still think is the issue. Those are the criteria in which you're looking for.
Let's go for people, and then we can lay out, I think, whether they help or hurt.
How is a candidate who is for unity, for bringing the state together, gonna, what does that symbolize if he chooses someone who's from the metro area?
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful out here. That's why we got to work hard to hold on to rural Minnesota, because it's got a special quality.
You're going to run for governor?
I sure am. I'm going to give my best. Thank you. Hope you can help me in September.
While the mayor continued his rural efforts, Governor Perpich began to put distance between himself and the troubles he had had during the winter that had caused his popularity to drop off so drastically. The governor used his incumbency to stay above the contest with Mayor Latimer. He portrayed himself as the working governor rather than the embattled candidate. His coverage in the press increased, and most of it was positive.
The family farm, rural Minnesota. If you're elected governor, do you feel there's anything you can do to help out the situation?
I think the first thing a governor must do is listen a lot and show a lot of concern and be there.
Because the mayor maintained an extensive travel schedule, he was well covered in the regional media, but in the Twin Cities, his campaign all but disappeared from the news. Before long, rumors began to circulate that Latimer was in trouble, that his campaign might go under.
I'm not as cheerful and as upbeat and as unworried as I appear in public. I find that mean things will irritate me, or silly things will irritate me, and I'll go to bed, and I'll wake up and it will still be on my mind. And I'll vent in front of Nancy, and she'll say, you're stupid and paranoid. Then I'll get out, and gradually I'll get more upbeat. So it's not accurate to say that it's not getting to me, because it is getting to me. But I'm still riding it.
What upset him most were the suggestions that the redevelopment of St. Paul was not on sound financial footing. On May 11th, the Minneapolis Star and Tribune published a story critical of the World Trade Center, the building that was to be the jewel in St. Paul's skyline. The mayor is on his way to City Hall for a press conference to announce that once again, St. Paul has received a AA+ bond rating from Wall Street. He wants to put an end to the criticism of St. Paul.
And so I'm getting mad. And I'm tired of, my usual routine is don't complain and don't explain and grin and bear it and keep on moving. At this point I say, wait a minute, we're going nuts here. You know, let's start talking about the facts.
The mayor gave a long and detailed explanation of the city's credit rating, but the reporters were interested in politics.
You feel you're getting a bad rap as someone who is, Speaker Jennings says, you're papering downtown St. Paul with debt. Is this a response to that type of comment?
I think we have to expect bad raps and good raps during a political campaign. I think it's very important that the city of St. Paul and its solid, strong fiscal rating and the people of St. Paul and the work they've done over the years not be harmed by irresponsible political claims. And anyone who says that this great and good and solid city is not in solid shape is not reading this evidence.
At the end of the press conference, the mayor was asked about his personal income taxes.
How about your tax returns? Have you made a decision on...
Yes, I have. They're going to remain private, as is my medical report.
Why is that?
He wrote me a letter asking me about.
Why your tax returns, sir? Why are they going to remain private?
Because they are private.
Latimer's refusal to release his tax returns got more play in the press than St. Paul's AA+ bond rating. And the Perpich campaign had a new tactical weapon in its battery. The campaign has stalled. Latimer's field organization has failed to materialize, leaving many of his out-state supporters adrift and isolated from the campaign.
What I'm trying to share with you is I'm going back to these places 5 and 6 times and I'm being given stuff as though I've never been there before. And that's really irritating to me. I talked to you 3 months ago about collating the names. I mean, why do I have to go to New Ulm? I went to a place yesterday and got picked up by a cab.
The Perpich campaign is active and is planning for the governor's official announcement. Latimer and his election staff are still undecided about their media strategy, what to say and when to say it.
The visibility problem's got to get solved. We got 16 weeks left. If our advertising works better a little later than a little earlier, it will accomplish the very same objective, provided the ground doesn't shift away from George into Rudy because he's not known.
And my point is, I think that shifts every day. I honestly believe that. I don't think it's a hemorrhage, but I think there's a shift every day.
You don't gain, you lose in politics. There's just no standing still. And Rudy has an active campaign. He's out there. He's got staged media all the time. And, you know, people keep on asking me,
Let me tell you something. I understand that, but let me tell you something else. We have now enough money to do a moderate buy now, and with a little luck, a moderate buy at the end. If we want to do a heavy buy at the end, when it's really coming down to people are really paying attention to it, we may lose it because we're doing a moderate buy now.
Let me put something else to you. Our ability to raise enough money to have a moderate or heavy buy is going to be affected by whether they see anything.
But we are not going to do Metro television advertising, period, because I don't have the money to do it right now.
I don't care about Metro television advertising. I agree we should do out-of-state television advertising. I also agree that our strategy in the Metro area should be a free media strategy, because we will get the free media. That's provided we can keep the candidate from announcing 3 issues in one press conference.
Not getting any of them covered.
Well, no, nonsense. They covered your personal income taxes on WCCO radio. That's all they covered.
You should have come out of the box and you just said, look, this bond rating means that all this carping that's been going on about the city of St. Paul, not this all being Latimer's House of Cards, isn't true, because the 2 major no, that isn't what we said. The 2 major rating agencies on which people depend.
You read the St. Paul paper?
That's what
he
wrote the press
release. You read the St. Paul paper?
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's what it said in there.
Exactly.
But no, he just took it out of the press release. Did you say that at the beginning of your press conference? Is that
You had a chance
you guys start quibbling about when I
on
said it.
camera
The St. Paul paper got it just the way Mark wanted me to say it.
But he took the press release. Wait, hold on. That's not my point. I want you on television. I want you on television.
You didn't see me on television.
I know, because I bet you didn't do the press conference that way. That's what I'm saying.
I did too. They made an editorial judgment. They didn't want to print it.
Wait a minute.
Get that in your head.
Don't leave. Don't go away. We still need you. I don't think there's anything bad about calling the television cameras together, especially when it's convenient for them, to tell them one thing that has to do with you running for state office.
You're both dreaming. I tell them one thing, and somebody says, what are you going to do about the income tax?
And that's what they covered. That's what they
Yeah, and what I say is I refuse to speak on that subject.
We're here to
This is my press conference.
That's not bullshit. That's not true. What you could have said to them was, I haven't made up my mind what I'm going to do about that.
I think that would have been a bad response. They have one more bleed going that says he still is uncertain.
Well,
that's the last thing
let
want
me
to
tell you, this may have gotten in the St. Paul paper, but it didn't get on WCCO radio.
I know
and it didn't
that,
get
but
on
it
NPR.
wouldn't have, Mark.
And yes, it would have. The story would not have been George Latimer refuses to do.
You're just
telling us that we've got to believe your conclusion because it's your conclusion. I mean, you weren't there. How would you know what is true? You weren't there. Well, how would you know what we said?
I know what you didn't say.
You guys have an opinion about where that ought to be, where I ought to stand?
To have any chance of winning the primary in September, the mayor must force Rudy Perpich to become engaged in the contest. Latimer has to take the initiative.
Here, surrounded by the richest farmland in all of America, is also a number of stores that have been closed down.
In front of the abandoned Cologne Cafe, he announced his Rural Partnership Program. It's the first in a series of proposals in which he plans to address serious state issues.
Let me say that the governor does not have anything in place, that the legislation which we're now working under was...
Latimer hopes he can draw the governor out and engage him in a public discussion.
It's going to look like Lake Wobegon from here, doesn't it? With the football field across the way and the houses.
I don't, you know, I haven't heard any rumors of great anxiety in the Perpich camp, and I don't think there is any. I think they're on a nice proactive mode. They got the governor kind of in a script reading fix. They got the hoodlums out there poisoning the wells.
I think they feel pretty good this week.
I think they do this month.
It's almost like we're trying to win this one too many different ways, you know?
Yep.
That's my feeling.
Like alone.
The mayor and his campaign manager, Dick Broker, spent the day traveling to rural communities to shoot their first television commercials.
I'm sorry to inundate you with cameras, but you may be famous someday. Who knows?
Oh, I might be a star someday.
Why
Silver
not?
Lake.
Good to see you.
They want to record the candidate in spontaneous encounters with people who live outside the metropolitan area. And they want the commercials to focus on his energy and personality.
And I'm half Swedish and half Norwegian.
That's not bad. I wish I were. I'd get elected like that if I were.
Vote Latimer for governor on September 9th.
I'm going to go to every town that will have me.
Minnesota is moving again, now that the Perpich-Johnson team has cut taxes.
The Perpich campaign was already running its TV commercials.
Perpich, moving Minnesota forward.
During much of the month of May, the governor took advantage of his incumbency to attract the media, and he dominated the political news. He kicked off a run in St. Paul and held hands around the lake in Spicer. He opened the fishing season in Bemidji and gave an award to a restaurant owner from Argentina. The newspapers reported that the governor toured parts of Minneapolis and St. Paul, made a speech praising education, and had a record collection that reflected a wide range of musical interests. Finally, the Minneapolis paper printed a poll showing the governor pulling ahead of Latimer by 7 points. Riding this crest of positive publicity, the governor made his announcement.
I want to be governor for another 4 years, and I want Marlene Johnson to be lieutenant governor with me for another 4 years.
He said Latimer's challenge would only mean spending less time in his canoe.
I think it's really nice that he'd like to be out in a canoe, but I think the people of Minnesota are entitled to know what are we going to do about the deep-seated problems of the two-economy state. They want to know what we're going to do about 25,000 industrial workers leaving St. Louis County and the range in the last 3 years alone.
The mayor wanted to turn up the heat, and he renewed his challenge to meet the governor in a series of debates.
Discuss these issues, and what he's trying to do is walk his way through this campaign with a script.
He's not going to come out from hiding. He's not going to do anything but read a prepared speech. He's not going to take any chances. He's not going to take any risk. He's going to be hugging a lot of babies. I say screw him. Burn him in his own oil on this one. Doing a positive television commercial on George, to me, doesn't bias very much. Right now, Rudy is saying it's not even a race. That's what he's going around. He's got his commissioners walking around with this whisper campaign saying George is going to drop out. And it's kind of everywhere I go, George is going to drop out. George is going to drop out. That's where we're getting wiped out now, Tommy. We're out there with a strong, healthy, vigorous, successful campaign, and for all practical purposes, the metro community feels that we're working out of Hoboken.
Yeah, nobody knows.
It's crazy, and so our money's drying up, and people are, I mean, it's rumor control over there. Those guys are smug. They're laughing at us. They're poking around with us. Perpich is waltzing into everything, and the popular media is doing. The popular media are like corporation executives in this city. They don't have an original thought of their own. I mean, they're about 4 guys that do, and everybody else just trots around behind them, and that's what's going on. They're playing follow the leader out there. They're talking to each other. But that's what we're suffering under. And we either break through we're going to get no favors from the media breaking through this one, because I can tell it's running that way. It didn't run in this way.
Your favors are over.
The candidate for lieutenant governor still has not been chosen. But the mayor's first choice is a woman from Duluth who was not on the original list of possible running mates.
I think that you and I together can win a ton of votes in Duluth. I really believe that. I think we can surprise a lot of people.
Her name is Shirley Swain, and Latimer has invited her to his home to talk. Politically, she is an independent. In 1983, she lost a close election for mayor in Duluth.
That kind of thing, I think, could be very effective all around the state. And then if you want me to then continue to concentrate up on the range, then that would be
Well, I think we'd
where
be
you would
crazy
do it.
not to. I'd like you to run with me. I'd like to go with it. I'm absolutely convinced it's the right way to go. And we can agonize and argue forever about it. It'd be nice to have someone from southern Minnesota. It'd be nice to have a legislator, blah, 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 blah. The fact is, I feel great about you being lieutenant governor. I'm just delighted that you're interested. I haven't felt so good since the day that Fritz Mondale picked Geraldine Ferrero.
You sure?
3 days later, Shirley Swain called them. She said she had had second thoughts about running.
Bothering me was not any qualms about our success. I'm very convinced that you're going to be the next governor.
Well, I sure am not, but...
Well, I am, and I'm very convinced that our platform is the right way to go. I have no qualms on any of that. It is strictly inside of me that I have altered my life again, and I am not positive that is exactly what I wanted to do.
All right. No, I understand all that. And I even understand, Dick shared that with me, and I even understand how you got there.
I certainly would give some thought to reconsideration, but I don't think that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Forget about time, forget about Duluth, forget about what I'm going to do there. I'm going to do my thing. You're not a candidate. Meanwhile, take the time to think about what you and I have talked about.
I will.
But do it at your leisure, and don't feel constrained, because I'm going to do my thing, and I may land on somebody else, in which case I might call you. I'm sure I'll call you if I have the time to.
We've been through a lot in the last 2 weeks, and we're snake bit. I'll tell you we're snake bit. And it's, I think our snake bite time is over. I sense, even in talking with the media people, that they really are starting to get goofy on this Perpich thing. Yeah. I think, and he can't do this for the next 3 months if we decide to go in that DFL primary. He can't get away with it.
Goddamn, I have been thinking about last night. I was thinking about really blowing their heads off and run as an independent. We could take a month off, send everybody home, do thinking and organizing and raising money and nothing else. Developing the issues the way I want to develop them.
Yep.
Run as an independent, start our campaign again, say, in August.
Yeah, I'm tired of Ronnie and the others saying, well, you can't do that because you can't do that. I don't think there are any restrictions like that on us. And there ought not to be.
Yeah.
I think you'll make a great IR candidate. George Latimer has very little space between his brain, his mouth, and his being. That's why he's such a great leader. He doesn't have to go home, as he would put it, and contemplate his navel to decide what's right for kids. That's why he's so good out there. I am terrible at doing that. I got to sit down and close the door and think before I move. And that's why he and I have worked so well together over the last 10 years. We have very different juices.
You know, they've got these 7 issues that they're going to get you on. They got 7 different people, and repeated that thing. And that they also got this thing about drinking. You know, they're going to do that again. And I'm thinking, what's the matter? Why are we all so delicate about dealing publicly with the things people are talking about? Just tick them right off. Here's what I think about gay rights, DFLers and Minnesotans. What does he think? Here's what I think. I think we're all God's children, and that we ought not to brutalize or discriminate against people for being what they are. That's where I am. Where are you? Abortion. I think the most sacred decision a woman could make would be whether or not to bring a child into this world. And I don't think the state ought to be making that judgment. what do you think? That's what I think. And then say, these are the 7 issues that he's got his 7 people talking about. Here's what I believe about those issues. And by the way, he hasn't named as one of the 7 issues. The press has said to me that my drinking is an issue. So I think that people in Minnesota are entitled to know that in my life I have drunk regularly and abusively. In about 5 years, both of those have stopped. And in other words, don't be maudlin or defensive. And therefore, that's my position on drinking. I don't think that one ought to drink too much. So I'm not. and that takes care of that one. And then get on with it.
I'd love to go to work for all of Minnesota. I need your vote on September 9.
It's junky because of the way splitting the text. I don't know what to do.
Broker spent the rest of the day editing Latimer's TV commercials.
Well, if you throw the boat in the middle, what happens?
It breaks the continuity of the spot.
Really.
What about the voice?
Well, you threw the trained kangaroos in, what would happen?
We have
that breaks the continuity of the spot.
Let me watch it from the top one more time, can we?
Some people say that in his 2 terms as governor, Rudy Perpich has been not so bad. Do you believe not so bad is good enough for Minnesota?
I need your vote on September 9.
Good.
Don't like it.
That's my honey.
I didn't either.
What don't you like about it?
I don't like the negative.
After dinner, the Latimers joined the brokers to view the commercials.
It's like I was told by the reporter yesterday. There's no horse race. You got the Perpich off doing his thing, and Latimer off saying things about his program, which isn't getting covered, and has no staying power. There's no horse race out here.
He doesn't say what I'm for. And my whole life has been devoted to talking about what I'm for, and not running down what other people are.
It doesn't make a difference what you're for if it's not a horse race. What do you want to say? We're going all over filming everything. As if we live in a...
Listen, we kind of know what we want to say, but
No,
we've
we
got to
don't.
have a striking,
You
dramatic...
have not told me what you want to say. You've told me, and I disagree with you. I think we're crazy to spend $60,000 to say George Latimer's a nice guy.
What do you make the check out to?
With no lieutenant governor, and with Rudy Perpich's endorsement at the DFL convention only a day away, Latimer attended a women's fundraiser in Minneapolis. Just before arriving, Broker had received the Perpich campaign's response to Latimer's challenge to debate.
It's a letter saying that prior to either debate, they're demanding Latimer release his tax returns.
And I'm here to introduce Minnesota's next governor, a man of the future.
The fundraiser was hosted by Arvon Fraser.
And I was born and raised in Redwood County, and suburbs and even the Iron Range are all a part of this great state. And now I give you the man of the future, George Latimer.
That was a great pep talk. I need Arvon. Thank you.
This was one of the most successful events of the campaign. As many as 500 politically active women turned out to hear Mayor Latimer. And the campaign raised several $1,000s. It was clear that his political strength was here in the Twin Cities. The next morning, he asked Arvon Fraser to be his running mate. She said she wanted to think it over.
My bet is that she'll say no, but I felt great about it this morning. I talked to Nancy about it. Let Broker know. Nobody else knows but Broker, Nancy, Arvon, and me.
But the mayor never called Shirley Swain to see if she had changed her mind. At the DFL convention in Duluth, the governor was endorsed by the party. He received 72% of the delegate vote. Mayor Latimer had not contested the endorsement. On Saturday morning, Latimer flew to Duluth. The governor had already left, and the press was looking for a story.
Hi. Hey, Tommy. Good to see you, friend. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Latimer entered the hall to do a radio interview, but his presence drew the convention to a halt.
He should not be here. If he wants to conduct an interview, he should do it outside. Is being very disrespectful to the candidates that we have endorsed, and I would wish to have him removed from the hall.
He's entitled to be on the floor. The chair is not going to reject Mayor Latimer from the floor.
Buoyed by the excitement, Latimer flew to Redwood Falls for a parade.
George Latimer running for governor. Glad to meet you. How are you? Nice to be back. Good to see you, and thank you for the smile. It's made my day. Good to see you. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi. Good to see you. Got it. All right. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. You made my day. I'll come back here next week. Good to see you.
After returning home to St. Paul for the night, the mayor left early Sunday morning, together with his wife, for a return trip to Duluth. The DFL had offered him an opportunity to address the delegates at 9 a.m.
It would be my great honor to be your governor. You are entitled to ask, why now? Why you and why not Rudy? That's what I was going to say.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you feel better about that, or you're just saying?
No, I feel better about that.
Before they left for the convention, Arvon Fraser had called to accept the mayor's offer. She agreed to be his running mate.
What phrase did you use? I need one sentence. I'm not ready.
Oh, that will circle. Leadership by creation, not commission.
Leadership by action, not commission. Maybe I do need a speechwriter. Hi, Arvon. How are you? Nice of you to drop in.
Even his closest advisors are unaware of Latimer's decision. It's just before 9 a.m. Not only has the press come out, but the hall is full of delegates. They're all up early to hear his speech. The mayor wanted to reassure the delegates of his commitment to the DFL and its values, and he wanted them to understand the reasons for his challenge to the incumbent.
But I'm here most of all to say to all of you what you're entitled to hear, and that is not simply why I would like to be your governor, but why I would choose to become a candidate now.
He identified 7 areas, from the farm crisis to education, where he claimed the governor had failed to demonstrate leadership through actions and accomplishments.
I thank you for your kindness and generosity in letting me be here, but let me just say this. Whomever you support and whatever we do this summer and beyond, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be with you after September 9. You are all great Americans, and we'll be together throughout the campaign, and thank you very much for letting me be with you.
While Nancy Latimer drove home with her daughter, the mayor flew back with Arvon Fraser so they could begin talking about their strategy for winning the primary.
It means me going over to Anoka and you going over to Minnetonka and just walking back and forth and meeting at the border and going back and doing it again for the rest of this campaign, and gathering every soul and doing all the things we've got to do to show respect to the Southwest and Southeast and the range, but not more than that. Getting our media out there, getting the billboards, and making an occasional foray, but getting the vote up.
Latimer and his advisors feel the momentum of the campaign is shifting. They want to capitalize quickly on his success in Duluth.
I think it is time for Minnesotans to meet with the candidates.
At an early morning press conference, the mayor again challenged the governor to meet him, this time at a series of citizen forums around the state. The following day, he called another press conference to announce Arvon will be his running mate.
I've admired Arvon Fraser for more than 20 years.
Earlier in the week, Shirley Swain called. She had reconsidered Latimer's offer and wanted to be his running mate. In an awkward moment, the mayor had to explain that he had already chosen Arvon.
I hadn't heard that in a long time.
Do you feel by selecting Arvon as your running mate, you're pitting Twin Cities metropolitan area versus the voters and the concerns of rural Minnesota?
The most important thing we can do with our economy, in fact, is to knit together.
The Perpich campaign saw his choice of Arvon Fraser as a major political blunder.
I think that's the most important thing we can do economically, is to bring balance back to the economy. this is what I believe we can raise over the next 30 days.
125,000.
Modestly, okay? I mean, I can get to 150, 175, too, if things break.
But conservatively, you think 125
Right.
realistic?
That gives us 380.
How much
okay?
of
That can go into television now.
Less of 75.
The campaign has already spent about $300,000. Latimer and his chief fundraiser, John Taft, need to raise more so they can buy enough TV time during the final days of the campaign.
So I shouldn't be so discouraged about the money.
We're not raising 400 to 500,000. We have, I mean, we're not going to have what we want, but we're going to have enough to buy that much in media.
We don't have to worry about Arvon in terms of what she has to offer. The only thing you have to worry about is the labels that have attached to her and the way people see her as a big city liberal. So our problem isn't the product. Our problem is the image of the product. The perception.
That's what elections are all about.
That's right. I understand that. I understand that. I understand that. But we can at least start on a base where we know we can build some good perceptions out there. That's all I'm saying. And that's
Increasingly, the campaign has to rely on the media, especially television, if it hopes to close the gap with the governor.
I said very bluntly, I said, you've got to decide whether you want Rudy Perpich to be governor again or me. Because very frankly, if you go with a Republican, it's not going to happen. So you've got to decide where you want to put your investment.
Well, that's what I was trying to tell the people, too.
Well, maybe it could get better now because it's post-Luderman. Bob, how about yourself personally? Are you in a position to be able to send me $1,000?
Well, I sent you some, but I'll commit to you that I will reach that number either alone or with one or two other guys.
Well, that's pretty fair, Bob. I really appreciate it. The only date I care about is this, Bob. Your word is good enough for me, is about July 25, because all the money that we can raise between now and then will go right into the television tube in late August, and we got to make our buy then.
Okay. Mrs. Fraser, to agree to run with you.
Yes.
Yes, how'd you do that?
Well, I asked her, the same way I got $1,000 out of Bob Hovelson.
You're very persuasive. You're a silver-tongued devil. I've always said that.
Well, the thing about our Yvonne is that she'll cost me, I wish I were. If I were, I would have the money already. The thing about our Yvonne, Bob, is that she dismays some of the political regulars because they're looking for someone opposite me. But from the standpoint of really intensifying the vote turnout in the population which knows me best, it's a big plus.
All right. I think it's a coup. I really do.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say it, because I've heard plenty of the other, my friend.
To counter charges that Latimer and Arvon are running a Twin Cities ticket, the campaign is staging a media event in Arvon's hometown.
Wondering, is there any chance at all to get one-on-one with Arvon? Or?
I would not say one-on-one. When she's sitting at the table, you can talk to her.
The first stop is the cafe. Reporters from all around the state have been invited.
Talking about farm policy, or what's the agenda? We're still going out to the farm. Okay.
Saying that I'm not from here. I lived here for 17 years. I'm from here. I now live in Minneapolis. I lived in
Tell us, did you live here? Were you born here?
No. We moved here when I was in the 8th grade. This was the first farm my dad was able to buy. Obviously, I still have an interest in this place, financial as well as emotional. I figured George ought to see this kind of stuff.
I chose it first of all because I found a mature, thoroughgoing human being who has spent her whole life and career on the things that I think are so important, like economic justice, the rights of women, what happens to children who are in poverty.
Okay, but you're not here to win all of rural Minnesota. You're here to show another dimension of her to rural Minnesota and to the Twin Cities. That's what you said in the car, right?
Yeah, and also what this is like.
No, I understand that.
Needs to understand.
I understand that, but I mean, you're looking to bring another dimension to her, right?
I don't know if I'm... I don't need to bring another dimension to someone who is 60 years old and has lived a life as full as Arvon Fraser.
We got 6 weeks left till the state fair. And I think if we don't start firing stuff out regularly, I mean, we talked about getting the whole agenda out by the end of June, by June 30th. We've now gotten 2 pieces out, and we have been constipated. And I know you don't feel this way as much as I do, but I don't think a lot of people know that there's a contest on.
No.
And I don't think that careful, thoughtful, contemplative responses to issues or to our agenda items are going to win it for us. I just don't. when this campaign is all over, there isn't going to be a glass cover right below the Declaration of Independence that has Latimer's education program in it.
It's not the way we do business.
I don't care. That's not where it's going to end up.
We say something important in every one of these statements.
Yeah.
We say something real important about approach and about leadership. That's enough. And then we need enough detail to make it stand by itself. But after that, I agree completely. We've got to look at these things politically.
I'm sorry, the mayor will not be down to the hotel for his election night eve till he gets the paper done on natural resources.
After discussing the announcement of Latimer's program proposals, they turned to the debates and the mayor's income taxes.
And it's likely to keep coming up and up and up and
Well, I
up.
think
Why
we're
is it likely?
ahead.
Because it's a superficial issue that the press loves.
I think we ought to bring it up on
And-
occasions
And
when
I
it's
think we ought to
possible.
bring it up, and I think we ought to use the words terrified and afraid. So he comes back and says, I'm not afraid, I'm not terrified.
Yeah.
Earlier in the week, Governor Pripich suggested the mayor may have personally profited from the redevelopment of downtown St. Paul. Latimer called the suggestion silly, but privately, he was angered by it.
And it seems to me the answer is the privacy thing, but you go beyond that and say, we file and have filed all the disclosure forms. Bingo.
I think the best way to handle this issue is to say, I'm not going to release my income tax.
And why is that man hiding and afraid to talk
And
about
I
what
filed all the disclosure forms.
you wouldn't do it. What you do, it's a rationalization. All you do is confuse people. You hide behind.
No, but I think you do have to say what Arvon said.
What? Listen, I'm going to tell you something. That whole privacy thing doesn't impress me a bit. It doesn't impress anybody else either because you don't.
No, the heck out of me.
Well, it doesn't impress me. And it doesn't impress the voters because they don't think you have any expectation of privacy. And the fact that Nancy doesn't want to release her income tax returns is fine for me, but that doesn't win the point either. The point that what you have to do is deflect the criticism, and you don't deflect the criticism by stating 15 reasons why you're not going to release your income tax returns. You say, look, I'm not going to release my income tax returns. That's not the issue. The issue
Both the Latimers feel very strongly about maintaining the privacy of their tax returns. There is one issue left to discuss. Their media campaign does not have an effective focus.
Well, we got 33% still sitting on the table that aren't tipped. And that isn't like it's a small margin of people. That's a large group of people that have not had, for some reason, a strong attraction one way or the other.
Latimer's first commercial left a favorable impression of the mayor, but it did not move any numbers in the polls.
Why are we wasting time?
To win the primary, the campaign must capture the undecided vote.
Well, we have to make a decision about whether or not we're going to do any negative ads, too, and get ready for those. We aren't going to... We shouldn't do that at the last minute. Those should be ready to go if we have to use them.
Why do people like me at all? 90% of it is nothing to do with an issue.
But it's because of strong leadership.
It's not just strong leadership. It's because I'm a guy who's like them, and they feel something when I'm around.
Well, I've read about all the stories of all the different campaigns.
You can't have a positive campaign with negative ads.
But what good does it do to have a positive campaign you don't win?
It's on your front page.
At this point, Latimer is convinced, with Arvon supporting him, that the way to go is to keep talking their game. And in his case, it's not even a matter of doing negative advertising. He just won't do it. Okay, it's a question of how direct he is in his ads about comparing himself with the other person's record.
While Latimer has been standing still in the polls, the governor has pulled further ahead. Jim Lauer, the campaign's pollster, is planning a new poll to help them decide what to do with Latimer's final series of commercials.
That's what I think we really have to test hard in that poll, Jim. Because if our poll shows that George can be a little tougher on Rudy and bring out, or at least our ads can bring out, Jim Lawless saying it, like here's the current governor, and then Latimer coming on to say if we can get away with it, in other words, without us getting a backlash on it. George is very concerned about it. I think we ought to be concerned about it.
We have suffered the loss of nearly 20,000 jobs just during the period from September 1983 until September 1985.
From late June through most of July, Latimer called a series of press conferences to outline his agenda for Minnesota.
And I've talked and will talk in the future about many related issues. We have the problems of unemployment compensation burdens. It's not very easy to solve. Politicians don't want to talk about it. Governors would rather they go away. But the obligation of leadership for a good governor is to take those issues head on.
Latimer got tough, but the media coverage of his campaign was thinning out. Only one TV station, Channel 4, sent a news crew.
Today, Latimer and Frazier would like to
talk about our hopes for education.
Just 2 reporters and 1 TV cameraman showed up to hear about their hopes for education. It was Sunday, and most reporters had the day off.
As governor, I would insist that the recipients who overwhelmingly want to be self-sufficient.
Most of Latimer's program proposals had done little to arouse either the press or the voters. But his plans for tax reform did get a reaction.
If we continue to evade the necessary hard decisions, we're going to continue with this kind of volatility.
To lower tax burdens and bring stability to state revenue, the mayor's plan included expansion of the sales tax to clothing and personal services.
The total tax burden is going to be lower for every taxpayer classification.
But the governor was quick, and he seized the political opportunity.
I've never been convinced of anything more in my whole life than I am about the fact that you can't talk about increasing taxes. And I'm telling you, that would just be a blunder of major proportions.
Hello, this is Mayor Latimer calling for Zali. Sure, I can hold, no problem.
To win in September, he must rely on television advertising. The campaign will have to raise more money.
But it really is, I mean, it's said time and time again, the importance of money. But you know, we just know now, what are we aiming for, John? What's our target for buying? 350, 450?
We are planning to spend $250 on TV.
Is that all?
Mm-hmm. That's a moderate buy.
Boy, that is moderate.
It will be 200.
But it's kind of crazy when you think of all the work we do. The truth is that for $500,000 or $750, I'm elected governor. At $250, it's marginal. It's putting it crudely, but I think it comes to that. I'm no different than any other politician. Mm-hmm. I don't like calling people up asking for money. Yes, George Latimer, yeah. What a joke. Zali, how many balls do you have in the air right now? George Latimer calling. How are you? All right.
Throughout July, the campaign expanded its efforts to raise $250,000. The largest contribution, $50,000, came from Wheelock Whitney, the Republican candidate defeated by Rudy Perpich in 1982.
Latimer has a better chance to defeat Perpich than either Ludeman or Lindau.
Whitney wants to buy advertising aimed specifically at Republicans to help Latimer defeat the governor in the DFL primary.
And George knows how I feel. I feel that he is vulnerable to defeat in the general election. And let's get him as the candidate, because that is a way to give a Republican a shot at winning the governorship.
I laughed and I said, I'll tell you what I told the other Republicans. Vote for me in September and I'll beat you in November anyway. Go wherever you want to go in November.
I think Minnesota needs a new governor, and I can't lose, because I certainly vastly prefer George Latimer as governor to Rudy Perpich. So it's I feel completely congruent in my gut.
The press is pursuing the story, and Whitney has already been interviewed. Latimer has called them to find out what Whitney said.
I presume Wheelock was interviewed by Escalon.
I was.
Well, why don't we just have Wheelock tell us?
Well, as you well know, George, they can take anything they want to and take whatever slant they want to. I said that they are two separate elections completely. I said that George feels that if he can win the primary, that he can definitely win the general election. And you told me that. And I say, if George wins the primary, that the independent Republicans have a better chance of winning in November. And
There's nothing here that's new.
That's right.
They can play it the way they want to play it. I think we ought to relax and keep going straight ahead. And they want to come to me, and you know what I'm going to say. I'm happy to get any support I can get. And as long as I win that primary, then we'll take care of the general.
I said he was inept, inarticulate, inconsistent.
Is that all you said?
Yeah, I said all of those things, and I said it to all three of the reporters. So
I think we all ought to relax and go right straight ahead where we're going. I'm feeling great. Wheelock, thank you for following through on this.
Okay, buddy.
Bye. Bye.
The campaign's pollster has completed his work, and the results look bad. The governor has increased his lead over Latimer and is now at least 12 points ahead of the mayor.
I was really disappointed. I was crushed because, first of all, it flies in the face of what I feel. You know, I mean, if you just asked me how things were going, I would tell you that I may be behind, but I'm moving up. That's what I feel. I mean, I can feel it.
He's denying it. George is denying it the last 24 hours. I talked to him last night, and it was like it went by him. And I feel the same way today. It's gone by him again. I don't know whether it's over. I don't think it is over. I don't think it. He's denying it. George is denying it the last 24 hours. I talked to him last night, and it was like it went by him. And I feel the same way today. It's gone by him again. I don't know whether it's over. I don't think it is over. I don't think it is over.
It's really strange because I've always relied on my instinct and my observation of people and my gut, you know, and it's very disappointing for me to be that far off. Just, I still want to see the election. I still, you know, am dying to see the numbers because I'm an optimist, and I also haven't experienced defeat before, so I want to be there to...
They chose not to go head-to-head with you. They just simply called off the election, and that's what's happened. They chose a route on April 1st to not engage in an election this year. They would just dust you off, and they would try to make it as mellow and as comfortable of a summer as possible. Our poll, forget about Hart's poll, shows that there are no issues in this election.
If the mayor wants to draw the governor into a contest, he will have to accept the governor's terms and to make his tax returns public.
I think it's as boring as a tired old slug out there.
On August 5th, the mayor released his tax returns, and the story ran as front-page news. But there was nothing in the returns that was of concern for the public. At his press conference, Latimer challenged the reporters.
It's been a long time since you asked me, well, specifically, what are you proposing? You remember you asked me that 2 months ago? Now you've got a lot of specific... Now how about asking him that? How about all of us asking him that? What are your specific proposals, Rudy Perpich? We've not heard them. Someone has got to call him to task. The media apparently is unwilling to, and I'm here to do it.
On Sunday, August 10th, the WCCO team charged that the governor's human rights commissioner had abused her position and mismanaged the department.
I think we ought to take this one head on, and it's government running amok with Where's Rudy?
The next morning, Latimer and his advisors met to assess the political fallout and to formulate the mayor's response.
It's really important that we not just come across as celebrating a disaster and saying, well, it's just more of the same. He's a bad leader, PUC, blah, blah, blah.
Here, to me, is the purpose of the press conference.
Let me ask the questions, and you give me the answer.
I haven't been able to talk because you keep interrupting.
I'm not asking you about LTV. I want to know the particulars of why this governor should have known that he had a couple of incompetent flakes who were serving their own interests, and he could have acted if he were a leader.
Okay.
We get that hook in there, then we can talk about LTV.
What I mean. Okay, I was waiting for
Maureen and I both agree that talking about LTV in this context sounds like nothing more than...
I don't agree.
Well, I'm going to be the one saying it.
All right, let me finish, and then you pick it apart. All right. There are three issues.
The press will arrive in a few minutes. To get the most political mileage from the situation, Latimer must try to convince the reporters that the Human Rights Department story is part of a larger pattern of poor leadership from the governor.
It may be true it all has to do with leadership, but boy, people are going to have to leap to see the connection between this fiasco last night on Channel 4 and the tragedy of the steel breakdown and of the PUC investigation. I know that we can do it if you give me 5 minutes on television, and I need 5 minutes.
I know I'm not going to get it. That's my point.
Latimer must find a way to be concise in his comments, providing quotes short enough to be used in news broadcasts.
Let's give me the sentence again. This is Rudy.
Well, you put it in your words, but I said it's a pattern of Rudy Perpich's leadership, if you will, that just in the last 2 weeks, or non-leadership, or use whatever term you want to use, that just in the past week has brought us.
Let him finish.
Has brought us this revelation, the revelation with respect to the Public Utilities Commission, and the I don't have the words, George.
It's all right. You give me the idea.
But sit down.
When the press arrived, the mayor was ready.
The governor has been silent and passive. It is a part of a pattern that shows that Rudy Perpich simply does not like to govern. We have speech. Action. I'm George Latimer. Let's talk about the governor's mishandling of his Department of Human Rights.
The mayor has agreed to the production of more aggressive advertising, but he is withholding permission to broadcast until he approves each finished commercial.
Back in May, he knew of the abuse of public funds.
They have decided to shoot a negative ad aimed specifically at the governor's handling of the Human Rights Department.
When I'm governor, I will stay home and mind the store.
That's a good one.
That's wonderful.
That's a great ad. I met today with the Commissioner of Department of Human Rights, Linda Johnson, and informed her that her term is being ended immediately.
By firing his Human Rights Commissioner, Governor Perpich is trying to end the story and undercut the attacks from Mayor Latimer.
It took a television investigation report to get action.
Broker worked all afternoon in an editing room. The campaign wants to keep the story alive by getting the ad on the air right away.
For 2 years, the department has been in turmoil.
That evening, the Latimers joined the brokers at home to watch it.
I think we ought to run that until the story dies.
I think that's the most horrible ad.
Well, I just think you're absolutely wrong. That is a great ad.
Not just because it's
I don't think that we ought to be
negative.
apologetic, and frankly, that's exactly the way I feel. The way I said it is the way I feel. There are people all over Minnesota who are outraged about that story. And that guy there is angry. He's firm, and he's not, he's saying he knew about this. And he's not even mentioning Linda Johnson, but he's making it clear.
It's what Dick said. You're a newsman. You're the guy reporting on what's going on.
It's a good piece.
Latimer approved most of the broker ads, but the mayor was concerned that during the last month before the primary, the campaign would be running only negative ads.
A negative ad is remembered 3 times with the intensity of just a regular positive ad, because it says something. It says, well, what's he talking about? Why is he criticizing Perpich? So you get a lot more play off a negative ad. Number 2, if you aren't careful, what you do is you're just whipsawing yourself back and forth between negative and positive. The message you're trying to leave, the message you're, listen,
I understand.
the message you're trying to leave, the message you're trying to leave is Rudy Perpich is not a good governor. And the St. Paul ad and the other ad don't do that. Well, it ain't gonna, everybody knows that. Everybody, the poll shows that.
I don't know where you read it, but to me, it's a non sequitur to say that to spend part of your time saying what's wrong and part of your time saying what's right and how you want to make it more
saying
right.
what's right all the way up till now.
Not there, I haven't, Dick. Not there.
For the last couple of weeks, because you aren't going to close the gap by saying what's right.
What are we doing the last couple of weeks? You got some plan next week?
Rudy Perpich says, on his positive ads, what you say.
Don't talk over me. I just asked you a question. What couple of weeks? When are we going to do a positive thing?
I think you're crazy. The people out there are not interested in this election because they see no distinction between the 2 candidates. Your positive ads say the identical thing Rudy Perpich's positive ads say. They're going to like you better? It doesn't make any sense. Somebody's got to undress the king. Why spend our money running positive ads when they aren't working?
Let's talk about the governor's mishandling of his Department of Human Rights.
The response to the hard-hitting ad was mostly negative. The governor had effectively ended the story. After 3 days, Broker decided to pull it off the air.
All right, let's deal with sales tax. Are you in favor of sales tax?
The way you said it last Friday was, I will oppose any extension of the sales tax unless it is part of a program that reduces taxes for every classification of Minnesota taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. I say that and lose everybody.
That's as good as they're going to get.
I'm going to get killed on that, aren't I? Even after I say all that.
The first debate with the governor is scheduled for Saturday in Duluth. The mayor spent Friday getting ready.
You might want to go with just a bit darker makeup.
Despite the heavy media coverage, the debate was disappointing for the mayor.
When she flashes that stop sign, if you keep talking, I will say your time is up.
The League of Women Voters had restricted the candidates to 1-minute responses for each question. And the candidates were not allowed to address one another directly.
The issues that so far we've addressed on the side of the governor and the mayor really are low level, and
the addition of a minor candidate further undermined Latimer's efforts to sharpen the contrast between himself and the governor.
I remember talking to the unemployed in Badminton.
The governor praised himself and the performance of his administration.
That all my energies would be towards economic development and getting people back to work.
How do you rate your own performances? As well as you thought you'd do, better, worse?
Well, I don't think we're here to give each other marks. We're here to try to give the public a chance to measure the candidates.
Latimer tried to use the forum to make his criticism of the governor more pointed, but the governor escaped unscathed.
I think for that purpose it was a decent forum. I felt it was very important to demonstrate those areas that Rudy has simply failed to talk to.
It was fair.
I thought it was fair.
Throughout the summer, Latimer has met with newspaper editorial boards around the state to discuss the issues of the campaign.
The function of cleaning up the tax system is twofold.
The Minneapolis Star and Tribune permitted WCCO to record a portion of their meeting.
I knew it wouldn't be well received because people zeroed in on the sales tax side of it and ignored the rest of my proposals. That it's been a political liability for me, but I took that on. I expected to take that on.
After our camera crew left the meeting, it became clear to the mayor that members of the board were not aware of his program proposals and had not read any of his position papers.
I didn't think it was necessary for me to sit down and start beating him over the head and acting like another losing. You know, losers are always blaming the press for not covering them. That isn't the way I feel. I don't feel my problems are a result of, you can pick here and there, but I don't feel that my political problems are because the press has treated me unfairly or inadequately. So therefore, but I think it's appalling that people who are putting together an editorial page have not read or taken the initiative to read any of my papers.
Are you sure you don't want to stay home and get some sleep?
No, I think I should be available. The last thing in the world we ought to do is pull a Perpich and say he's not available.
The mayor went home ill after he'd left the Star and Tribune.
Pretty soon, Perpich is going to announce how terrible your idea is, much worse than what it is.
Wait, hold on a minute. What did you say?
He's afraid Perpich will beat you to the punch, George, and say that your program is really stupid now that Congress has acted.
Under the new federal tax law, Latimer's proposal for a sales tax is no longer viable. The mayor has decided to reverse himself and abandon his most unpopular political position.
Well, we'll still be called by the press tomorrow morning.
Yeah, or tonight even, Mayor.
You probably get a call tonight. How you feeling?
I feel fine.
Oh, you sound terrible.
The campaign has been very successful raising money. They have more than $250,000 for their final advertising drive. But with just 3 weeks remaining, Latimer and his advisors are unclear about their media campaign.
The reaction to the ads that I've heard has been, oh, they're okay. Not great. Just so you know, I mean, I don't know what they said, but nobody's going, rah, you know.
Now, our ads did not move the ground.
The constant indecision, or having the appearance of constant indecision, is something I don't think we can do. I think we have to have a theme. Let's push the theme.
We got to target what we're going to do. We've got to decide 2 or 3 messages and formats, and we got to do them just right.
I think we've got to stop improvising. I think we've got to make a decision. If it's not today, between now and midnight, of what the rest of this campaign is going to look like, and we've got to do it.
Mark has given the opinion that 25% in combination with the radio ads is sufficiently negative. He said it's sufficiently negative. Most of us have agreed, and you don't agree.
I think it's stupid to say 25%, not knowing what the ads look like and what's going to happen the next 3 weeks. That decision is to, you may decide we want to run an ad, we may decide 75% of the time on negative.
Am I going to decide what happened the next 3 weeks based on how you feel that night from the telephone bank?
Broker is under increasing pressure to make the media campaign work. On August 20th, the state's auditor released a report critical of St. Paul's Port Authority, the agency responsible for much of St. Paul's development. The press saw a scandal brewing. They wanted to find the mayor, but he was campaigning in Duluth. Broker wanted to find him, too.
Because this is a setup from the word go. And he is, I have never said this, Kevin. I've worked for him for 10 years. He should duck every press person he can duck in the next 2 days, including Lindsay Strand's story. I argued with her. I got into a yelling contest with her. Lindsay Strand's story is that this is George Latimer's Human Rights Agency. And I said, Lindsay, I said, how can you say that? She said, because our news director tells us that's what we're supposed to be doing. If that's their attitude, screw them.
Broker has reached Latimer's aid in Duluth. When the mayor got on the phone, he already knew what he wanted to do.
I don't think the phrase Latimer refused to be interviewed has ever been made in the 15 years that I've been in public life.
I think we ought to avoid you walking into cameras, getting off an airplane with Lindsay Strand, who's already written the story, doing whatever number she's going to do on your forehead. I think you ought to be interviewed. Call her and give her the quotes over the telephone.
We have plenty of time for you to get the hard data of the interview that the Port Authority is now having, and for me to be informed, poised, and brief.
The mayor took off from Duluth and headed back to St. Paul.
Channel 5 is going to try to cut everybody else off and get them live at the airport. Who's picking them up down there?
Julie and I.
I told the guy at Channel 5, I said, we're not waiting at the airport. We're going right back to the office.
But they're all going to do that. I'm willing to bet on it.
We don't have a...
They're not going to wait at the office like the kids. They're going to try to scoop each other.
All right, let's think a second. What time is it now?
It's 4 o'clock.
Latimer's flight catches down when?
4:45. If he did leave Duluth. We can contact him in the air.
Contact him in the air, tell him that he's likely to get caught up with Channel 5 at the airport, so he's aware of it.
Gail, do you hear me? Come to me.
It really has been a goofy day. It's been a good day. What do you say?
Give you a brief synopsis. We have
Why
to
don't
be
you just tell me straight, how did it go?
I was not there, but I've gotten two reports. Your name was hardly mentioned. Was Bud still with us, or did he just leave the tape? Your name was hardly mentioned. They hit very hard on crowds' expenses. They asked about the fishing trips. They asked about comparing it to the city of St. Paul. A little bit about the hotel, but that got kind of obscured. They didn't spend much time on it.
What I don't understand is that the only thing I read made no reference to a violation of ordinance of any kind.
No. What has happened, there's two things there that I would still call questionable, and they relate to the purchasing of the marine supplies and the W2 reporting.
Yeah.
And both of them have already been remedied in-house by the court.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to get into all that detail.
I don't think you do. I think for once in your life you have to really say, I haven't read the report.
Yeah.
and just stick with that.
If you walk in there, you'll be live on 5.
Auditor Carlson today flatly denied there is any political motivation to this report and the timing of its release.
No.
Now, just this minute, the mayor has walked in here, and Mayor, I guess the first question everybody wants to know, what did you know, when did you know it, and do you condone the appropriateness here of the Port Authority?
Everyone wants to know. I haven't noticed that. I have not read any of the reports. I am waiting to hear from the report. Let me simply say this, that the Port Authority is an independent agency, but it's still a public agency.
Do you think the pattern of extravagance is there that...
You see, I don't know what pattern you're talking about because I don't have the report before me.
Were you aware of any problems at the Port Authority, Mayor?
No. Where you been on this? Where have I been?
Are you responsible for this?
Yeah, I mean,
May I-
shouldn't you be
May I-
monitoring this in the same way that Governor Perkins should be monitoring human rights?
I'd be very happy to respond.
Latimer continued to point out that the Port Authority is an agency independent of his office, but the state's Human Rights Department is part of the governor's administration.
You've had a pretty good shot at me, and I'm going to stay here as long as you want me to. But if you want to talk about the difference in the way we conduct this matter, I ask you to recall how long Rudy Perpich dealt with you, or how many times you had to go through his various spokespeople before you got him to meet with you and look you in the eye and tell you where he is on the subjects that you pressed him. Having said that, what is your question?
My question was, do you think there are adequate financial controls over
I'd like
the
to
state?
thank you for coming this evening.
The second League of Women Voters debate was as disappointing for the mayor as the first. The question and answer format was essentially the same, only this time an additional minor candidate showed up.
We would then reduce the income tax nominal rate as well as the effective rate.
God, is it dull.
We would broaden...
Good of you to stay awake, everyone. Later in the evening, after the news, Channel 4 ran excerpts from the debate. George and Nancy Latimer watched at home.
It's much better to look good than to feel good.
God, I was dull.
Twice they said the same thing.
On spending.
On this question?
No, he took this answer away. He talked about education.
Yeah, not the whole question, but...
in the budget.
He did a better job than I did because he focused on people.
200,000 people go back to work.
Andrew Olson said the question really didn't matter because he believes there won't be a budget surplus. He preferred to discuss his ideas for plasma and laser technology. Economy.
I may have made several major mistakes along the way, but I'm not sure yet. It's too early to tell, you know. But I made them on my own. I mean, they're my mistakes. They're my choices. They weren't something that happened to me by accident or anything else, you know. So in that regard, I feel fairly serene about, you know, I don't... If something happens to you, imposed upon you by fate, there might be a little more sense of anger or resentment, I think, than if you make your choices and you live with them.
So the ads start full blast this week. We're only doing 2 ads, the Carpenter ad and the Get Out the Vote ad. You'll hear them on the radio, you'll see them on television. The full-page newspaper ads start tomorrow in Fergus Falls. You'll see a couple of them in the Twin City areas.
The final days of the campaign were a frantic effort to get out the vote in the Twin Cities area.
Hello, ma'am. I'm a volunteer for Latimer for governor. Do you plan to vote next Tuesday?
I'm calling from the Latimer campaign. Thank you. We'll see you at the polls this Tuesday.
Someone once said to me, the difference between you and Rudy is that Rudy's a fireman and you're a carpenter.
Roker was finally able to get a series of ads produced that successfully captured Latimer's personality.
But it's much better to build something that will be fire resistant. That's what I'm about. Vote September 9th.
Say hello to George Latimer. Most popular mayor of St. Paul ever had.
Thank you, friend.
Minnesota, what he's done for St. Paul.
Thank you very much.
George Latimer standing right over here.
Glad to see you.
To Latimer's surprise, both the Pioneer Press Dispatch and the Star and Tribune endorsed his candidacy.
Yeah, we need a little of the background music from Rocky. I can feel it coming. What do you think?
Hi, I'm Yvonne Fraser. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Hope you vote on Tuesday. Thanks very much.
Good luck, George. Thank you very much. I need your help. Thank you. Give me your vote. Thank you. It's a mixed bag, Nan. Some of it is horrible and some of it is ugly. Boy, yeah, that's an amazing machine. But if it's so amazing, why didn't you give me better numbers?
Hi, Warren.
Hi, George.
You could have come a half hour earlier. We were still all up, and I was full of hope 30 minutes ago.
What happened?
Yeah, why didn't you come back earlier?
I wish I could.
It's terrible.
He's ahead and he's hoped for
I'm trying to be realistic. I'm not going to change anything.
Wait till the Dinah comes in.
All my life I've been waiting for a Dinah to save me.
You still feel good about it?
Oh, I don't feel good about the numbers I've heard so far, but I'm not going to change about the way I feel about what we did. Just about everyone here did 100% more than they committed to do as a volunteer. Somebody, Tom Kaiser, who's been with me for about 15 years, said, you said what you wanted to say, and you had a good time while you were doing it. That basically is true of the whole campaign. You got some bad news from... Yeah.
You got the... the poll?
Yeah.
Mark's got verified through two sources. 55-39. He'll run with it at 9.
55-39.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's your business.
It's too bad. So it's 55-39.
Well, I don't want to jump off the bridge yet, guys, because I'll tell you the truth is, nobody's ever tried to do what they just tried to do. And I have no idea whether that's scientific or whether the methodology holds up. On the other hand, I don't want to kid ourselves about it.
Yeah, it's not likely to be that.
Well, they're going to shove a microphone in your face at 9 o'clock a half hour from now.
That breaks my heart. They're in there all excited.
Don't tell them. I'm not going to.
You didn't even get here early enough for me to thank you.
Yeah, you think,
It was wonderful out there. Out there, they think I've won.
Yeah, I know. So are our phoners.
I know.
So are our phoners.
Hi. How are you, Jerry? Good to see you.
So are our phoners.
Yeah. Well, let's get on with it. Come on in, enjoy yourself.
Let's talk just for a second. 9 o'clock when they put a microphone on your face?
I don't know what I'm going to say.
What do you think?
I don't know. I'll wait and hear what I have to say. I'll be dying to know. There's no point in trying to deny a poll I don't know anything about.
No, I don't think that you ought to deny the poll, but on the other hand, I'd hate to...
You don't think I'd concede?
No, I
That's
don't.
what you wanted to tell me?
Yeah. But tell them a poll's a poll, and it may be right, it may be wrong, but let's get some of the real counting before we decide. That's what I would say.
Okay. Makes you feel good. Beautiful work. How are you doing?
Fine.
All right? Yeah, I'm doing fine, too. Probably hasn't sunk in yet.
Did they announce something?
Yeah, it's all piling up very bad. Kind of like the poll. With me ahead by not an awful lot in the metro, the whole metro, by a little.
51-45.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. Not enough. And getting clobbered through the rest of Minnesota. Let's go make a speech. Nan, Arvon, Faith, you want to join us? Come on. Hey, honey. Yes, come on, Mary. And Dick Broker. And Dick Broker. Where's Dick? Get Dick up here. And Dick Broker. Mark Buck, come on up here. Come on up here. Come on, Mark. Come on, Faith and Josh. Faith and Josh. Maureen, come on up. Susan, come on up, Susan. Come on up. Sandy Ossoff and Tommy Ossoff, come on up here. Now, what we're about does not end today and does not end tomorrow. What we're about, really, is pulling together as a community to make things work better. It just means being tough-minded and good-hearted. I want to be with you now and next year and beyond that. Thank you all from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you all. Don't give up. Keep working. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.